and welcome back to Sundays in the garden in the snow in Austria. In this video I'm going to catch you up on our holiday in Austria, show all of the beautiful things we've been doing in the 30-degree sunshine, like swimming in lakes and visiting amazing mountain locations. And this is the end of our holiday now, and we have got freezing temperatures and snow. Let me catch you up on the last few weeks. So we arrived in Austria to blue skies, sunshine and these stunning views of the mountains. It was about 30 degrees, and if you've never been to Austria or Switzerland, these videos just don't do the stunning 3,000 metre mountains justice. This is the restaurant area of the Eurocamp site, Sports Camp Waffelgut, which we stayed at near Zell am See. This is the lake on the site where we went swimming later on in our holiday, and every evening we walked around the lake, and this was the beautiful sunsets that we were often greeted with. This is at the top of the Schmittenhohe mountain, which is the mountain that looks over the town of Zell am See. And we went up there in a cable car and enjoyed a cup of coffee and some chips and looked out over the town on a really warm, sunny afternoon, and enjoyed watching the paragliders as they flew past. And my little boys enjoyed waving at them as well. It looked really, really relaxing. There was a play park up there for the boys to enjoy, and we just really enjoyed being up there and enjoying the stunning views of the mountains that surrounded the area. When we weren't out exploring, we enjoyed spending time in the stunning swimming pools on the site we were staying at. This one was heated and we swam in it even in the rain and in the sleet later in the holiday, because it was really warm and stunning, and the mountain backdrop was just amazing. And then again in the evenings, it was off to the play park by the lake to enjoy the sunset in these stunning surroundings. Another fantastic day out we had was driving the Grossglockner High Alpine Road, which is an absolutely mesmerising, stunning road which leads up to the glacier on the highest mountain in Austria, the Grossglockner. And it's not for the faint-hearted, because there are lots of hairpin bends on very, very thin roads, extremely high up, sometimes 2,000 metres up and even higher. But it is a drive of a lifetime, and we had the most amazing time. We were really impressed to see cyclists making it up here, and it was just amazing to be up in these stunning surroundings with the snow. And down in the valley it was about 30 degrees, but up here it got quite chilly, so we needed our coats and things. But we spent the whole day driving the road, had lunch up at the top near the glacier, and we went down to visit the glacier and then came back down again. And I would highly recommend it if you're ever in the Zell am See area, because it was just mind-blowingly beautiful. Once we'd made it over the peak of the first mountain, it was down a bit before winding our way back up to the glacier. And these were the views over the first peak, looking at the other mountains in the area, many over 3,000 metres. Absolutely beautiful. And we were even lucky enough to see some golden eagle pairs. I think we saw 3 pairs in total. And this is one of the pairs that we saw, which I managed to capture on film. This is the last descent before ascending up to the glacier through this tunnel. And here is the beautiful glacier. It was absolutely stunning, but very, very sobering, because there are images all around of how the glacier looked 20, 30, 40 years ago. Here is where the glacier position was in 1960, all the way up here. As you can see, the glacier has now receded all the way back to that tiny glacier coming down in the distance. So in the last 60 years, things have changed dramatically. 1990, it was still all the way up here. And then as the years passed, it's been receding. And it was a harsh and sobering lesson for my 6-year-old, who is home educated. We went to study the glaciers, and we went down. He was really keen to touch the glacier water, which was really, really cold. But it was a lesson in not only glaciers, but in global warming and climate change as well. And both my boys have talked about this experience a lot since we've left and come home as well. So it's really stayed with them. This was the funicular that took us up and down to the water's edge. It was, again, a bit of a hair-raising ride for anyone who's scared of heights. My husband doesn't like heights particularly, so the drive to get here on the very, very steep and winding roads and then the funicular wasn't his favourite thing ever, but he was very brave. After lunch, we journeyed back the same way we had come and enjoyed the beautiful views again, and managed to find somewhere to stop for ice creams for the boys and a coffee for us before descending the last part of the journey down into the valley once more. Another day out we had was to Sigmundthen Gorge, which is a walkway, a wooden walkway that has been built through a gorge with waterfalls and pools, and it reminded us of Rivendell from Lord of the Rings or something like that, because it was just so beautiful. The force of the water was incredible. Again, the videos don't quite do it justice, but these walkways were feeling quite precariously balanced over this forceful water. And there were sections that were undercover as we walked through caverns that had water running down. But the water was so clear and so blue. And it's somewhere that I would highly recommend visiting if you're ever in the Kaprun or Zell area of Austria. Once we had finished at the gorge, we walked back to our car and we drove into the town of Zell itself and got a small boat out onto Lake Zell. It was about 30 degrees, it was stunning and clear, and we were able to get fantastic views of all of the surrounding mountains. We also got a much larger boat out on this lake later in the holiday, but the views were completely obscured that day in snow clouds and rain clouds, so this was the best view we had from the lake of the surrounding mountains. Once we'd finished on the lake, we went into Zell itself to admire the beautiful Austrian architecture and the window boxes that were adorned with flowers on every building. And we all commented that it was amazing how well kept all these window boxes were. No flowers needing to be deadheaded, and everything absolutely immaculate and green. This footage comes as we are now on a journey to another area of Austria about an hour and a half from Zell called Hallstatt. And this area is popular because it's very akin to the Norwegian fjords, and the mountains rise up out of the lake, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So we really wanted to drive a little bit further afield to see this town. We took the funicular up to a skywalk viewing point, and we had a picnic lunch packed, so we sat up at the top of this funicular looking over the stunning mountains and enjoying our picnic. And these are the views that you get from the top back down over the lake and the mountains. And then my son and I walked to the end of the skywalk, and one of the lovely tourists took a photo of us standing in this amazing location. Once we left Hallstatt, we went along the road a little way to Gossau See, and this is Gossau See Lake and the surrounding mountains. It is absolutely mind-blowingly beautiful. The mountains are very reminiscent of Canada, perhaps, or again, Norway. The snow on the mountains in the distance was just beautiful, and we took a lovely leisurely walk along the lake, sat and had an ice cream, and then returned back to our campsite. Our next excursion was to Krimmel Waterfalls, which are about 50 minutes from our campsite, and they are the highest waterfalls in Europe, but they are split into sort of 3 sections. And we walked along, and this really did have a Canadian vibe, I felt, because of the nature of the buildings and the trees. We took a picnic lunch and sat by the base of the waterfalls and enjoyed our lunch, and then walked up a way so we could view the waterfalls from a higher level. And the rainbow next to the waterfall was just beautiful. It was a stunning area, and again, highly recommend visiting Krimmel Waterfalls if you're ever in the Zell area of Austria. Another place we visited was the top of Salzburg, which is the highest place you can get to on cable car in the Salzburg region, and it looks over most of the 3,000 metre mountains in the area and is just a mind-blowing visit and highly recommend it. We also visited a restaurant called Berghof Mitterberg above Lake Zell, which has fantastic views down onto the lake, and the food was lovely as well. So we enjoyed a nice meal up there with my parents. But the drive up and down is not for the faint-hearted. So again, if you don't like heights, then perhaps give this one a miss, or ask someone else to drive and keep your eyes firmly closed. Next, it was off to Salzburg, and these are the Mirabell Gardens, which were filmed in The Sound of Music. The steps and the fountains were used in the movie, and I played Maria in The Sound of Music, I think 12 years ago now, and I always have loved the film, so it's great to visit here. I visited when I was 30 with just my husband, and we had a weekend trip to Salzburg and took in all the sights. And then this time we visited with my parents and my 2 little boys, and it was fantastic to be back to see these beautiful gardens and to reminisce about my time as Maria. And here I am pretending to be Maria, skipping around the garden. Doe, a deer, a female deer, ray, a drop of golden sun. Anyway, these are the stunning Kaprun mountain reservoir. Again, a journey up here, really not for the faint-hearted. I'm not scared of heights, but even this journey did take my breath away, rather. But the views were absolutely outstanding. I'm not sure if I'd come back, but I'm very glad that I've been and seen this magical place. Once we got back down, the weather really turned. We huddled up by the fire. The restaurant started playing Christmas songs as the snow began to fall. And we couldn't quite believe that we had been swimming in lakes in 30 degrees weather and now it was snowing. But it really made for a magical end to our experience to see all of these different seasons and weathers in one trip in Austria. We had 3 days of our 19-day break left at this point, and we spent most of the time swimming in the pool, both outside and inside, even in this weather. And we went for meals at the restaurant. We went on a high alpine roller coaster, which was really good fun on my dad's birthday. And then we enjoyed a wonderful meal in the restaurant where we were staying at the end of my dad's birthday. Sadly, at the end of the meal, things took a bit of a scary turn as I had an allergic reaction to something that I'd eaten. I do have allergies, but I didn't know that the item was in the food I ate, unfortunately. And so I ended up in hospital on a drip for the evening. So it wasn't a great end to the holiday or the birthday, but I was out of hospital the next morning and on the mend. Then it was a journey towards home through the snow. We had a night in Germany, then a night in France, and then it was home to my garden. I hope you've enjoyed this peek inside our family holiday in Austria. If you've enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time for a garden tour for September.